Hi, this is Brandon with Precision Defensive Solutions, and today we're going to talk about whether red dots on defensive handguns, especially for like everyday carry, are necessary or not, or are they even beneficial? Recently, there has been great argument on whether an optic on a everyday carry pistol has any benefit at defensive distances. So we're talking inside of, most of the argument is inside 7 yards. So 21 feet. Is there any benefit to that? Let's look at it in a couple of different ways. Number one, people want to say, well, you don't really need your sights on the inside of 7 yards. I've said this before, I will continue to say this. Use your sights if you are shooting. Okay. Now, people are going to say, well, but iron sights, you got to line them up, line up the front sight with the rear sight and hard focus on the front sight and target blurry, rear sight blurry in a very classic fashion. Under stress, I guarantee you are going to go target focus just like you would with a red dot. And you're going to kind of superimpose those sights, and see what what you need to see to get your hits. You are, okay? Because that's what stress is going to do to you. If we look at the benefit of the dot, if we're always constantly talking about defensive distances, we're focusing hard on the target, why not go ahead and use the dot and use that benefit of target focus training? Because if that's what you're naturally going to do, you might as well train it and be that much better with it. Well, people say, well, what if they break? What if they go down? What if, look, in modern context, if you break one of the new optics, you're being pretty abusive to it. If you use it in normal use, normal training environments, the likelihood is you're not going to break them. There's a reason why more and more law enforcement agencies are going to a red dot, and it is because of the target focus, and it allows them to open their vision and see more of what they need to see in defensive encounters. So why should you, as a private citizen, be any different? So let's talk about some of the benefits. Number one, sight confirmation, okay? With iron sights, most people are going to, if they're training constantly, their brain is going to want to go target focus, but they're also going to be wanting to go back to habit and try to line those sights up because they never trained target focus with those sights. Could they miss like that really easily? Absolutely. The other thing about training with the optic is when you practice with it, and I'm going to stress this, you've got to practice with them. Iron sights, you've got to practice with. So the argument of, well, you don't really need to practice with iron sights, but you need to practice with a dot, that's a bunch of bull. You really have to practice with whatever you're using on a regular basis. But that sight confirmation is so much easier. Superimpose the dot on the target and let it go. Now, what if the dot goes down and you can't, you don't have a dot in your window? Can you still be accurate at defensive distances? Absolutely. Absolutely. So if we look at the frame of the optic, okay, and there's nobody in the room, and I'm going to raise this gun up and just show you. If we look at the frame of the optic, okay, and I'm looking at the camera, and I do have a little bit of a dot. It's not very bright, but if I'm looking at it, I can frame the screen in my camera or even the lens right inside that window, and I can hit it even at pretty good distances. Why? Because I have a frame of reference. Okay. Now, I can also do it with the frame of the optic housing also. It doesn't just have to be the window, it can be the frame of the housing also. Now, people were going to say, well, you can do that with the back of the gun too. Yes, you absolutely can. But if you've got that little extra it does help you kind of narrow it down and at least give you some height adjustment so that you can get that done. So there's a benefit to the optic of not just easier sighting, but if the optic were to fail, you do have other sighting options other than just using backup sights. Should you use backup sights? Up to you. Up to you. On this gun, I do have the suppressor height sights. If I look at this through there, I can kind of see my front sight. It is a 1/3 co-witness. Does it have to be a 1/3? No, it could be more. Do you absolutely have to have backup sights? No, but redundancy is never a bad thing, right? With the SCS, the stock iron sights are your backup sights. So you don't have to replace those sights to get a 1/3 co-witness. You literally aim the gun and line up your sights and your dot is there. So if you are very used to using iron sights and you're transitioning to a dot, this is not a bad option because you can just line up your sights and you're going to see your dot in your window just from your natural presentation of lining up your sights. So there's a benefit there too. Are there any real cons to putting a dot on the gun if you're only using it for everyday carry? Not really. All I see is constant positives. The one thing I would say is that if you don't train with it, you shouldn't carry it. But I'm going to argue that with iron sights too. If you don't train with the gun, I don't care what sighting system you have, I don't care what gun you have, if you don't practice with it, you should not be carrying that gun for everyday self-defense. So there's my take on it, everybody. Take care, be safe, get out to the range, get some practice. We're getting into summertime, enjoy that weather. Take care, everybody. Be safe. We'll talk to you soon.